All right, I'm pausing from the Mustang. What we're gonna do is we're gonna look at something that many of you might find in your older cars. What I've got here is my personal 90 Mercury Grand Marquis. Later on, we'll get further into body work and how to adjust panels and getting everything ironed out. These are big, long, hard-lined, straight cars. So they're going to be pretty simple for the novice starting out with blocking and so on and so forth. But what I want to show you is something that I've seen since I bought the car in 2022. I have since put 45,000 miles on it. I pretty much drive it in between, driving my truck. And what I want to point out is something that was an old way of doing things, but I want to show you what happens from those old ways if they aren't done correctly. Now, I'm assuming this was done in a production body shop, which would explain the amount of speed that would have went into this repair. Not to mention that most of your backyard guys don't use, something like 3M Platinum or Platinum Plus or something like that. And I can see that because this filler is yellow. But what I'm going to show you is where in the times past, they would take and drill a few holes in where the dent was, and then they would thread these little deals in, and then they would put them on the pull arm. And I guess I can show you a couple of those. I don't use them, but they were in my dad's stuff. So, but these were the old way of doing it. Wherever they are, I've got them in here somewhere. Where are they? I know I didn't get rid of them. Let's see. Sorry, I have stuff in the way of my box where I keep all my junk stuff, or little nitpick tidbits and things like that. I don't know where they're at right now. This is not the box that I use daily. I keep my bolts and old hardware and stuff like that in there. I'm not sure exactly where they're at. We can edit this out if we need to, but what I wanted to show you is how these older ways, yes, they worked back then, but today our standards are different. And if you're going to do something the right way, then I would advise that you don't really use this technique. My goodness, I don't know where they are. Anyways, they are threaded like a really heavy wood screw on one end, and on the other end they have a flat tab and an eyelet. And you would drill a small hole in the panel, and then you would thread these in, and then you would give them a pull. So I'm going to spin us around here so you can see what I've got. I figured while I was getting ready to epoxy that, I would go ahead and quickly repair my trunk lid here, because it had some cracking and checking, crazing, whatever you want to call it, but it was only in this one area of the trunk lid, so I knew there was body work here. Now, what I wasn't aware of was kind of the extent of what was done. So I figured I would stop what I was doing on stripping off all this old filler and give you an idea of what happens to this over time. Now, I'm not going to call this a failure on the materials. I'm going to call this moisture intrusion from not welding up the holes instead of just filling them full of bondo. So I'm going to spin us around. That way you can get a good idea, and we can talk about this a little bit. You can see me strip it off, and then I might do a video of welding the holes up, doing the repair properly, and getting an epoxy and 2K primer. So here we go. All right. You see the cracking? That cracking is because moisture has gotten in, and I have already cleaned a lot of that off. Moisture has gotten in from around those holes, probably from this little guy right here. If I can get it to focus. You can see where right off the edge of that hole there's a line. And then you can see that line right here. It's gonna get a little loud, but we'll go ahead and strip some of that off. By the way, Okay, this is a coral stripping disc. As long as you do not hold it in one space for too long, it will not get hot. As I peel that back, you can see off of every one of those holes, you can see a streak of rust. And that's because moisture still gets inside the trunk and will get inside the back side of that filler. Another thing that I want to point out here, you can see that there's an inconsistency between the colors of this Bondo. What I'm going to go out on a limb and assume is, be careful with assuming, you can see that one may have been a glaze, or it may have been glaze mixed with filler as a skim coat. But you can also see the underlying layer is very thick. It's still within tolerance. 3M, and I don't know if this is 3M or not, but 3M allows for 1/4 inch. That's, for me, that's a little more than I like to have. But you can see the difference in the coloration between the two. So there are two different consistencies, and they could have very well been two different materials. But you can either assume that there was moisture on this panel when they applied the Bondo, which is 100% possible. But you can also venture to guess that these holes right here allowed moisture to get in and get up under that filler. And as it does, as well as the vibration and the shutting and the opening of the trunk over the years, it will start getting behind that filler. You can see where the filler has actually started to discolor, where the rust is soaking into it. And as that happens, it lifts it up. And when it does that, it causes it to crack. You can see all that rust that's in behind there. See, this is what happens. Check that out right there. Watch the reveal on that. You can see where every one of these cracks are, there's rust underneath it. And it's because moisture has gotten into those cracks beyond the paint and caused this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this all stripped out and cleaned out. We're going to come back, we're going to weld up these holes. And then we're going to come in and we're going to finish straightening this out and getting it level. I'll show you with the straight edge how far it's already out. I can feel it, I can see it. You can almost see it because of the contour. See where it tightens up and sharpens up right here and then smooths back out and softens up? That's because this is still dented in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and strip that out, and then I will work on my editing skills and stitch in the next part. Until then.